This week at MS Refresh, Microsoft announces a dedicated Power Platform conference. Windows will let admins send custom notifications to their users. That could be some fun. Some surprise news on the team's co-organizer role. Plus, we'll cover all the good stuff that's due this month on the Microsoft 365 roadmap. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 58 for the work week of April 11th, 2022. Coming to you from the East Coast, my name is Matt Wade.
And as always from the West Coast, I'm Sean Bugler. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing peachy. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, work, as I was telling you before we jumped on the call, I'm all over the place because COVID is over, apparently, and that means that all our work policies are changing. That I'm being facetious, obviously, but things are changing really quickly in terms of what policies are in place, and I've been just kind of nonstop developing new Power Automate, Power App solutions to help kind of drive things forward, to kind of help facilitate that. Like, I personally just rolled out the new, we're letting people request to work from home primarily, did not ever come back to the office as a requisite of their job, which is kind of interesting. Are you seeing something similar on your side?
Just in general, yeah, definitely. And people getting kind of pulled back in. It's interesting seeing some organizations trying to stuff the toothpaste back in the tube, and some will do it come hell or high water just because, that doesn't go with our culture or whatever else. But yeah, I think that sounds pretty common out there right now.
It's so interesting. I don't think any of us know what the future holds necessarily, but I think one thing we can all agree on is it's a mistake to try and say anything with any level of definitiveness.
Yeah,
but that's the magic of, I guess, of a lot of the platforms and tools that we've got at our disposal, is that it does enable that flexibility. It does enable you to say, we're going to be the ones to wait and see. We'll let other people make the mistakes. We'll learn from them, and then we'll make our final calls.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, no, otherwise things are good. It's I'm learning about the Beatles after the Beatles. In my college
course. That class you're taking. Yeah.
My biggest takeaway so far is those are some petty young men. That's what I've taken from this so far.
I love how the most you're going to take from this degree of yours is going to be just about the Beatles. It's going to be, that was the most notable thing.
the most information that I'll take away from these last 2 years.
You'll tell your grandkids about the Beatles, not about your marketing or your accounting or anything good like that. But.
Exactly right. But yeah, no, this is another fun week, another fun bundle of news from the roadmap. What do you say we get into it? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is the news.
Lots of items across most services in the world of Microsoft this month are seeing updates. Here's what we're seeing today on the M365 roadmap, starting with Teams. As usual, Teams wins the contest of most features rolling out this month. Here's a sampling of some of the things to expect or hope for this month. Video filters can be used to smooth out facial features nearly 2 years after originally announced. The good news is my skincare routine has gotten substantially better since then, so I don't need it nearly as badly as I did when we first started this. Branded lobby experience for those with advanced comm SKU. Really just a logo, nothing super special. That's coming. Full audio and screen sharing support for Firefox, as well as the ability to share system audio from meetings in the web app. Anonymous meeting join across clouds also means that you won't have to copy a URL in the Teams app if you're not in the same cloud instance, which should be a bonus. An upgraded presenter mode is on the way, where you can place your video on top of shared content. This will let you move and resize your video feed as necessary, although as Matt and I can tell you, as of about 10 minutes ago, the individuals who are going to be consuming their joining that meeting from the web experience are going to see a slightly degraded experience, less immersive, we'll call it. And finally on Teams, for those of you who like to talk to yourself, we've got the next best thing, the ability to chat with yourself in Teams. A number of these and more are coming to both the GCC moderate and sovereign GCC clouds, So you Gov folk have some exciting updates to look forward to. Let's go ahead and jump over to OneDrive. OneDrive is getting a few UI updates as well, coming to all commercial and Gov clouds. The sharing experience will have more sharing options, including Teams chat, which is pretty exciting. You'll be able to navigate to all your Teams files from OneDrive and view the activity column in the My Files view for unseen edits and comments. That's all we're seeing in OneDrive for now. Jumping over to SharePoint, a few SharePoint updates are on the way as well, starting with the ability to create files directly from the SharePoint app bar. We'll start to see that create icon rolling out in the next couple weeks. Similarly, you should be seeing the new lists icon there too on the left app rail, giving you access directly to Microsoft Lists. You'll also be able to make section templates for your SharePoint pages, which will be pretty neat. Private drafts are coming for SharePoint pages and news. Items in a Microsoft list that have no date will be listed as, quote, unscheduled, end quote, in any calendar view. So it's clear what's missing from the view. Now, as much as we'd like to acknowledge every app has equal footing in the world of Redmond, that's not always true according to the Microsoft 365 roadmap. And so we yet again jump into the potpourri section of our news update. Starting with Stream, Stream will let you edit a video or audio file's title, description, and thumbnail. This is a new item, but surprisingly is also due this month, leading us to believe that a PM did not push publish on time. All right, it's finally happening. The main Outlook apps are finally moving to a left side app bar UI in the Outlook desktop for Windows. Put your helmets on. Microsoft Project is getting chart view a la Planner, and guest users for Project for the Web is on the way. And for Planner on the other side of the spectrum here, a long time coming, expect recurring tasks, which we may or may not have talked about once or twice, as well as the ability to add rich text and images in task notes. The To-Do mobile task app is coming to GCC moderate users on iOS and Android. GCC High and DoD are still out of luck. Sorry, gang. PowerPoint has organizational fonts coming to both the web and desktop app to help define brand experiences on your slides. Whiteboard will be picking up the ability to allow external access in Teams meetings. And lastly, Microsoft Forms. The homepage will be updated to match the All My Forms page, which includes getting easier access to creating collections or folders, as we like to call them. The Forms app will also get easier to find from the Office Hub, or office.com, via a new Teams-like app pop-out menu in the app bar.
That was the news.
A lot of excitement in the news, Matt.
I think one notable one from last week, there was the announcement at the Microsoft 365 conference in Vegas that there's going to be a new Power Platform conference, which I figure you're probably kind of excited about. I don't know if you're going to be able to go, but either way, they're at least bringing everything together.
I'm excited. Yeah, for anybody that didn't hear, they did announce that there's going to be a dedicated Power Platform conference taking place later this year in everybody's favorite state, Florida.
Doesn't somebody sound so California right now?
Oh, go I know. That's that. I went last time. I went in the thick of this thing. It was the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
But I am excited about that. It's nice to see the Power Platform getting its own dedicated space that isn't necessarily targeted towards like, you know, they've always had like the BizApps Summit, which has kind of been the closest they've got to it, but it hasn't necessarily been a marquee conference. And I think that that's what really makes this different. And hopefully we'll have more to share about this in the coming weeks. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm no word on whether I'll be speaking there just yet, knock on wood. But
aim high, dude. No joke.
But I have thrown my hat in the ring, so we'll see what comes out of that.
Good.
If anybody would like to vote for me, text Sean to 12.
American Idol style.
That's the audience of people who are going to get that joke gets smaller and smaller by the day. Now, Matt, how was the conference? What was your experience coming out of that?
So it was really good. I've now been to this conference in December, a few months ago, and then I was in Florida with you for the same conference last year. That was, I think, one of the first conferences that Disney World had hosted since basically since the NBA used them as their bubble, right?
That's us,
Yes,
NBA players.
yeah,
This is
exactly. Yeah,
I'm very often compared with NBA players.
I was going to say I was basically just LeBroning my way around, so whatever. So it was a good conference, very, very good conference. A lot of folks from Microsoft, a lot more announcements, a lot more interaction with the product groups. I was really pleasantly surprised to see that because I wasn't sure how much Redmond was going to get involved. I think they've been reasonably cautious with sending their people places, but they definitely had some top hitters there, and got to see just a bunch of people I knew, meet some new folks, including a number of people that watched the show, which was super, super cool. So yeah,
did you sign any copies of your books while you were out there?
I did give one away as part of my session. But,
did you also sign it?
Maybe not.
God, you're so bad at this promotion stuff, man.
Yeah, well,
we'll work on that. Jamie's got a great question here. How is the turnout for conferences these days? Now, obviously, this one's unique in the sense that we actually have a pretty good benchmark of what this used to be. You and I used to go to this conference all the time.
Yeah. So the app I don't know if the app has everybody listed that was in it, but I know that it had at least like 700, but I feel like the number was actually higher than that. The turnout was good. The sessions, as long as there weren't too many sessions at the same time, the turnout for each session was pretty good as well. Keynotes were definitely big.
Sure.
And you could see that. I actually, I don't know if I attended maybe one of them, just because other things going on and work, real life and all that kind of stuff at the same time. But venue is still, equally good. Vegas is Vegas. It's fun, but
sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I was sad to not be there. A lot of people reached out and they were like, "Hey, are you, I see Matt running around. Where are you?
Why is he there and not you?" That's what I know.
One of these days, I'm optimistic that we're at the tail end of me hiding from all of those conferences, and I'll be glad to be back in the swing of things. With respect to news, were there any announcements that jumped out at you?
I think the Power Platform Conference was probably the biggest one, especially
that was a bit of a surprise. I don't think we expected at a conference for them to announce another conference,
especially given that their flagship conference Ignite, it's still up in the air whether or not that's going to be in person. Probably not, based on how long it would take to get the scheduling and prep work done. So the fact that this is in person and is going to be basically the Power Platform version kind of Ignite, right? I think that was the one that really stood out for me.
There was one, obviously I wasn't there, and for anybody that wasn't there, and this is kind of the appeal of going to the M365 conferences, is that typically they don't broadcast the keynotes, and so the news that gets announced there tends to be, pretty insulated to whoever's there.
Yeah.
But one of the tidbits that did leak out, and it wouldn't be this show if I didn't make mention of it, but Mac is getting known folder move. The OneDrive sync client is getting known folder move in the next couple of months, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody that doesn't know, known folder move is essentially where OneDrive will replace or remap the desktop folder, the documents folder, and I think one other. But essentially your desktop, your documents folder, and I think it might be photos or something like that, essentially become OneDrive synced folders, which is great because currently Google does that with their Google Drive sync or Google File Stream, whatever they're calling it these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's iCloud, but those are really kind of it in terms of having a backup of any sort of your computer. But this would be the first instance where we'd actually be able to see a holistic enterprise sync solution for the Mac from the user experience side of things at every level, which is pretty exciting.
So I'm going to push back on that and say that I hate that feature.
Okay.
Here's why. So it confuses my users because it's much easier to say none of your C drive folders are backed up or are on OneDrive, but instead on Windows, it just picks and chooses a couple random folders. Documents is one of them. Documents is not something we should be using any longer. We shouldn't have been using it starting 10 years ago, right? Like it's unnecessary. So now we're just adding confusion, and now we're bringing the Mac users into that too. So why give them such a terrible experience? Because I have people that are like, oh yeah, no, I put it in my C drive because that's backed up to OneDrive. And it's like, no, it's not. Because they just align documents with being their C drive, right? Like it's not a great UX for where the exceptions are not obvious, and people assume that everything is covered on their C drive because only some things are covered on their C drive, and I am not a fan.
No, it's a great point. I know that in my past life, when I was a technical trainer, one of the more difficult training sessions that I would do was like introducing OneDrive as a concept to organizations that had rolled out known folder move. And so I would dedicate a good 10, 15 minutes to explaining this, not that, in terms of what is being synced, what is not. And really what you ended up having to do was put a file on the desktop, open up OneDrive, and go see desktop. Because a lot of people, users don't typically think of the desktop as being a folder, which I think is where a lot of confusion starts to arise when you actually see that in the web UI.
Yep.
Now, would your take be don't do this at all, or would it be do all of it?
Yeah, don't pick and choose. Like crap or get off the pot. That's that's the only thing I can think of. Right?
It's a great opportunity to say that this episode was sponsored by
by Charmin.
Ovaltine.
Yes, right.
I would agree with you. I think that we're in such a weird liminal space between fully cloud-based desktop experiences like the Windows 365 experience, and the kind of the tangible it's on my computer kind of experience that we're still trying to push up into the cloud in many ways.
Yep. No, I can relate.
But no, I think there were some cool things in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of those announcements that we did see leak out over Twitter start to pop up in blog posts over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yes, I agree with
Did you win at the tables? Did you win any games?
Yeah, a little bit actually. Yeah, we had let's see, Courtney came for the trip too, and we did some roulette and we did some blackjack, and every time we were up a little bit, we walked away.
I think that's a good strategy.
Yep.
So Matt, you mentioned at the top of the show that you wanted to talk a little bit about the new co-organizer role. Would you like to take that and run?
Yeah, so just a little bit of fun stuff here. Not something that you would see in the roadmap, because the downside of the roadmap is it doesn't necessarily identify something under private or a public preview being changed. But I happened to stumble across this today, that the co-organizer role has been rolled back.
I always feel bad when we hurt somebody's feelings.
And that's it. Just the statement here, the title of the article, the original blog post has been changed to include the term rollback in all caps. And this is the justification. There's not a whole lot there. In fact, the last sentence doesn't even have a period, so it was very quickly added. And so they're just going to roll it out in May as a finished product. So I'm not sure if this means that something broke. I don't know if the issue that was identified as a broken thing, or if it was just the poor feedback on the things that don't work, but were not supported from the initial announcement of this, and the, let's say, backlash on the this isn't what I thought I paid for kind of concept.
Sure. No, absolutely. And it's always tough when something gets rolled out and then wound back. And there's always more to the story than what they put in the blog post here, but glad to see that they're being transparent about rolling it back, because I know that there have been plenty of times where they've just it stayed in this purgatory of rolling out without actually rolling out any further than the first two organizations that got it. But it'll be interesting to see. I continue to hope that as they get this kind of feedback, that they'll start to think about some of these more bedrock deal breakers. Like we talk about the ability to truly change who owns an event as an example of that. But do I think that that's going to be what comes about in May? No, not by a long shot.
Probably not. Doubt it. So Clark Kent, I think you had another. There you go. Oh my God, it's super. You had another topic that popped up, and I think it was the Windows notifications.
Yeah. So this was kind of interesting. I shared it. of course, it's to nobody's surprise, you and I text. And when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is text Matt Wade.
No. The first thing you do in the morning is text me back after I text you, and it says, Sean has notifications turned off because you're 3 hours behind me, and I press notify anyway.
Right? You're the one that's like, this doesn't apply to me.
Right. Don't you dare tell me that you're not being notified.
No, never. But it was kind of interesting. So they announced, this came out in a blog post from, I want to say it was The Verge, and it was basically that Microsoft was introducing a new way to push messages from your organization to users' computers. And we're not talking about like a Teams message. We're talking about leveraging a native framework in Windows 11 that will essentially allow you to surface messages from the org to talk about, don't forget to... There we go. That was weird. Don't forget to approve your time card and things to that effect. And so it's interesting to see them trying to explore new communication mechanisms. Because is it not enough that Teams exists? Is it not enough that Outlook exists? But now I have to meet you where at the base level of your computer. Matt, what are your immediate thoughts?
I mean, I'm curious to see what, like, if you're, in a do not disturb mode in Teams, will Windows still send through a notification? I assume it probably won't, since it doesn't do that anyway. But yeah, I don't really understand. Well, I guess so. Like, Teams notification seems like a more obvious one to me. But if you're not using Teams that much, I can see where that wouldn't be necessarily the high value thing. And if you're on a business PC, you're probably using Windows.
Looks like StreamYard is giving us a little bit of trouble here. But yeah, so here's the Verge article, and we'll make sure to share it in the show notes. But yeah, I think the subtitle says it all: an IT admin dream come true.
Boy,
you can get a little preview of what.
Can you imagine the IT admin on his way out just burning down the house, just sending out a message saying, hate all of you people, you're the worst, something really good like that.
It's only a matter of time before somebody uses it to, like they're simultaneously monitoring like internet traffic, and they're, some overbearing CEO jumps on there and says, I can see you're playing, Canasta.
Yeah, or just not very, strategic thinking communications team that just jumps on it and thinks, oh, this is great. And nobody like puts a halt on that overzeal there. And this comment just came in. I was also thinking like this could be really good for emergency situations. As awful as it is, well, I guess fires or, emergency evacuation, but even like an active shooter event kind of thing, to be like, no, we're getting in your face right now because you have to see this,
Yeah. And it breaks my heart that those are the use cases we jump to right out of the gate, but it's true.
But think of it being used like in a school, right? Like to let students and teachers know, like, this is not a fire drill. This is a fire alarm. Like you have to get out.
Like this is true. Yeah, this is real. Yeah, and so we're seeing a quick GIF that is provided by Microsoft to The Verge, just to give you a sense. It's managed through the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, and that they can configure not just the message, but they can also dictate a URL that they can redirect the user to. So that's pretty cool. Like there's definitely some interesting use cases there. I would be really interested to see if this is surfaced in like Power Automate as an example. If there were like real-time scenarios of, I mentioned the example of don't forget to approve your time card.
Which is the one that nobody wants to get.
Right, absolutely. Or alternatively, I mean, like think about that right now it's an all staff email. But if it's not relevant to all staff, it would be great to be a little bit more surgical about that. Chris says, better than NetSend, which we've seen. Glad to see them embrace this as a framework either way. Could be used for other important caveat there, other appropriate notifications.
Yes, appropriate is the word.
I have not thought about NetSend in 20 years. No, longer. But we used to, when we figured out in middle school that NetSend existed, that was absolute bedlam.
Okay, you have to now inform us. I can't be the only one that doesn't know what NetSend is.
So NetSend, you could jump into the terminal, the command prompt of a Windows PC, and you could type in NetSend and then the username of another user on the same network and a message, and it would pop up like a little error alert box in the middle of your screen. I don't know if the functionality has evolved in the last 25 years. I assume not.
Right.
But yeah, it was a really great way to, like, you could type like "you've been hacked" or something like that.
Right.
And it would just show
really
up as like
scare or annoy people, one or the other.
And at least when I used it, I don't believe it even said who it was from, which was deeply problematic, and led to a lot of unfortunate harassment, none of which I was a part of. I did it for fun
of
things.
Course. You just watched it. Yeah.
We were all victims.
No, of course.
But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. Like I said, I would love to see them surface the endpoint that controls that in more areas than just a simple web UI hidden in the endpoint manager. But nonetheless, it's an interesting scenario that, when you think about like what this could mean for Windows, I think the extension of this now with Microsoft being a multi-platform company is, what does the Mac version of that look like? Can the Mac version of that exist? Because I think that up to now, we might have assumed that Microsoft wouldn't bother with exploring that space. But I mean, like Mac with the known folder move, like that's a great example of maybe they will try to invest in figuring out native implementations of this on other platforms. So I'd be interested to see.
And my takeaway there is, you automation people, you just are never happy. You can't be happy with what you're given. You have to ask for more. And you are the mouse who was given a cookie.
That's going to be, we should tag team on a children's book. If you give a nerd a feature.
That was well done off of the rip there.
And then Joaquim says, I think there used to be something like this too with Novell NetWare, which I'm unsurprised by, where you could push out a message. It's an interesting feature.
Back to the late 90s. This is a Dennis Nedry. It's all over it.
Technology, like fashion, is cyclical. But yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And I'll be interested to see what it actually looks like in implementation. My organization hasn't rolled out Windows 11 yet, so TBD on how that's going to go.
Yeah, I'd be curious how many organizations have rolled out Windows 11. That'd be pretty early adopting.
Have they rolled out Windows 11 years?
No. Not in any of the clients that I work with at this point. They still want to get people, used to Windows 10 at this point. It's change is hard.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
baby
exactly.
steps.
Yep. All right. So I think that's all I have. Anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to drop them into the meeting chat and we can take them on.
Jamie had a question that I want to bring up here for you. This is coming back to our conversation with respect to the known folder sync. And I think we covered it a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure I brought this back in case you reconsidered your position and all. If not syncing documents, I mean, to your point, do you stand by sync at all? Do you say, well, what if we rolled the back and it was just the desktop folder?
So I look at my File Explorer and my macOS Finder and ignore the fact that my desktop and C drive exist. They just don't exist to me, right? Because I want everything backed up. So it's either going in my Google Drive for my personal stuff or it's going to my OneDrive for my work stuff. So I don't really care which one it is. It's just the fact that the C drive on Windows has a whole bunch of like default folders that automatically show up in the left pane there. So it's just like advertising to somebody like, hey, this is here, put something here. And it's like, no, like don't put something there. Like you didn't need, Bill Gates to give you a folder called Photos with its own little icon for you to put have a place to save your photos. Like that's not necessary. Create your own folder in your OneDrive and use that instead. And if they become too big, which is reasonably likely, you can make it so that you're syncing everything to the cloud and only keeping stuff on your device you actually need, right? And keeping your device from going crazy or getting super slow because you've taken up, 63.8 gigabytes of the 64 allotted to you, right? Like, so I don't like the fact that it's a onesie twosie because documents isn't just as arbitrary of a folder as music, as photos, as all of the other ones. And like, why would you pick that one over the rest of them? You can save work files that are music files in a music folder. You can save work files that are photos in a folder or a photo folder. So don't trick people with those. Just give them all or give them nothing. And I'd rather just say, nope, just go to OneDrive. Just go to OneDrive. Just go to OneDrive.
Give Matt consistency or give him death.
Please. Yes, please.
And then another question from Joaquin here. A few months in, what are your thoughts on Windows 11 and how it works with Office 365? Anything more efficient? I'll let you take that first.
So it's adorable that anybody would think that I am currently on Windows 11. So I have a Surface laptop that I used to take all the screenshots for my books. And I went to upgrade it to Windows 11 and ta-da, not supported.
Oh no.
So
is it like a TPM issue? Like what's the
It was one of those, you know how they had the prerequisites on you have to be able to
it was
support
like
this
probably
much?
like the processor.
It might have been processor. I almost want to say it was the graphics card, which like I don't know. It just seems, but like Microsoft, it's not like it was a Surface laptop 2. Like it was a reasonably new one. Like, you know, I bought it, I don't know, refurbed on Amazon. I wasn't going to pay top dollar for something I was using just for screenshots because
no, of course not.
And of course, the publisher would never tolerate Mac screenshots, heaven forbid. So, you know, I did not go to Windows 11 and haven't been there yet, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on a whole lot. It's pretty, but it's, you know, it's Microsoft's version of Windows or of Mac OS. Did I say that out loud?
So I'll take the other side of it here, which is I've actively seeked out Windows 11 because it is supposed to be a more familiar experience, you know, for the computing devices that I tend to work with. Yeah, I would say that Windows 11 it's very clearly like the stable Windows 7 kind of plateau again. Like we've gotten to a point where they've enhanced and they've polished a ton of stuff. And this is going to be a really nice release over a period of time. Like it's going to be really nice to see them continue to buff out all the different bits and pieces, but setting aside the user experience, and addressing the question head on of, is there anything more efficient about how it works with Office 365? And obviously like the Teams integration is the low-hanging fruit. There's a ton of really deep embedded Teams-based experiences in Windows 11, both for Teams Personal, the kind of the family plan that they've got, as well as the Enterprise, although less so. It does seem like they focused really hard on extracting the Skype experiences and creating like-in-kind Teams experiences, which felt weird, still feels weird. Like I still don't think Teams makes a ton of sense as like a family organizing platform. But one thing that I will say about Windows 11 that I'm really excited about, and I continue to be really excited about with respect to the M365 platform, is that it comes with the Power Automate desktop application, which has a ton of really, really cool local desktop automation opportunities. You know, you're thinking about the concept of like macros as an example in Excel, but think about macros as they can scale across your entire computer. When I run an automation, you know, open this Excel file, make these changes, open up Outlook, attach that file as an attachment and send it to this person, all with you having to do anything. There's some really, really exciting opportunities hiding inside of that. And what's really cool about it is because it's bundled with Windows 11, you don't have to have any licensing. Like you can associate it with your cloud flows in an existing enterprise Microsoft 365 account. But there's so much cool stuff that you can do just with local automation. And for those of you who are familiar with, we get like a bell or something every time we say Mac, but anybody who's
I was just going to say Mac OS Automator has been there since
it's exactly right.
Tiger.
It's very familiar for anybody who knows about Mac OS Automator or the more recent Shortcuts app that exists in Mac OS and iOS. There's some really cool opportunities there. And for those of you who are on Windows 11, if you have not yet checked out the Power Automate desktop app, you should. There's some really cool things there. One of these days we'll do a segment about this where we'll talk about some of the ways that you can put it to work. But for now, go kick the tires on it. That's where I think there's some opportunities.
I think that's a good way to close out the episode for this week.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment below to continue the discussion. If you weren't here live, feel free to come on Monday evenings Eastern time to take part live, ask questions. You can post questions ahead of time even when you take those on. And quick shout out, one of the folks I got to meet at the conference was Adam Young, who you saw in the comments here, who was a blast to hang out with after sessions during the conference and kind of unwinding and just kind of chilling out, having a good time. And a couple other folks that came up and said hi, and it was a pleasure to meet everybody in person. So Sean, thank you so much for joining me this week. I can't wait to hang out with you and everyone else again next week. Take care.
Thanks, Matt.